Welcome, everybody. We are now less than a week away from Breath of the Wild and the Nintendo Switch. It's crazy. We're nearly there. We're almost there. I can almost feel it. Actually, I think by the time this video comes out, we're about 3 days away. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday of release, which is kind of crazy. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is the DLC for Breath of the Wild. Now, it's been a couple of weeks. I think it was the 14th of February when Nintendo originally announced this. And I kind of wanted to do a video then to share some of my reactions and thoughts about it, but so many people reacted in a way that I didn't necessarily expect that I've actually left it a little bit to kind of let all of that die down and also to gather lots of different impressions. And I've also read a lot online, from Reddit to NeoGAF to official news sources, IGN, and places like that. You know, lots of different gaming sites I've read from people who work in the industry and people who are just really avid gamers as well. So before I actually dive into this, I just want you guys to say your impressions below. This is why it's a discussion. I want you guys to instantly just put a comment down below, even before the rest of the video, on what you think about Breath of the Wild getting DLC. This is obviously post-release DLC, so it's not going to be like day one DLC or anything like that, but just want you guys to let me know. Okay, so it has been 2 weeks since we heard this news. The first thing I'm just going to bring up is the fact that the official video on Nintendo's YouTube channel has got one of the worst like to dislike ratios I've seen on a big game like Zelda in a long time. Almost half of the bar is dislikes. It's crazy to me. That's just insane. But again, we'll get into a little bit more of what people thought and what people reacted to in a second. For those who don't know about the DLC a huge amount, let's just go over that and cover that before we dive into the very minute details of people's reactions and thoughts, and then share my feelings and thoughts as well. So on March 3rd, which is this Friday, when you get your Switch or when you boot up the Wii U, you'll be able to go onto the eShop and buy the expansion pass, which lets you get straight away 3 treasure chests in the Great Plateau. These include useful items and an exclusive piece of in-game clothing, which I think is just a t-shirt with a red with Nintendo Switch logo on it. I think that's what it said in the documentation anyway. And then later this summer, you get a new Cave of Trials challenge, a hard mode, and an additional map feature. Before I go on to DLC Pack 2, I'm very curious about the hard mode and how it'll work in this game. In previous games, you've had to turn it on before you start a new adventure, but could you turn hard mode on all the way through your game? Do you have to start again? It's just, because it's open world nature, it's interesting to me. Maybe it's like a difficulty toggle like in other games. Be interesting to see. Additional map feature. I don't know if this is going to be something to do with the Sheikah Slate or if it's a feature on the map. It's, interesting. And Cave of Trials is probably something very similar to Cave of Ordeals and Cave of Shadows and, those other sorts of, it's like tiers. You go further down and down and down, and as you get further down into the cave, you get better rewards and such. So it's going to be something like that, most likely. And then DLC Pack 2, which is going to be around this Christmas holiday time. A new original story, new dungeon, and additional challenges. Now, a lot of people online have already thought of this and have already discussed this, but I just thought I'd bring it up now. Could this original story be something to do with Zelda in that 100-year gap that we know about in Breath of the Wild? I think that's a very good bet. I would love that to be a story. I would love to play as Zelda in a really interesting portion of the open world or a new section of the open world that is almost like a linear story that you go through this open world, you go to this new dungeon and things happen. Or it very well could be just a new storyline or a new quest that gets given to Link in the main game that you go to, and this new dungeon is like a new underground Sheikah place or something like that. You don't know. Additional challenges, I imagine these may be either more shrines or more side quests added to the game. Just what I think. So now we've talked about that, and everyone knows what this DLC is. A couple of facts. We don't know if you can buy these DLC packs separately. Nintendo has not said you can buy DLC Pack 1 by itself, you can buy DLC Pack 2, but they're going to be more expensive than if you buy them in this expansion pass together, maybe $12 each instead of, $20 for all of it. I don't know. They haven't said that. Currently, the only way to get this DLC is through this expansion pass. Now, one universal thing that pretty much nearly everybody I've seen, even the diehard fans and the people who support this, have said that they think is negative about the way that Nintendo have done this is they have announced this before release. Now, I agree, announcing this before release was probably a really, really bad decision. It's not the greatest choice, but that's what's happened and that's where we are. Why people don't see it that way, it's negative to release or talk about DLC release before release, is it almost suggests to a lot of people that, oh look, they've got all these things already made, but they've taken them out of the game and are just going to give us them throughout the year and we have to pay more for them. A lot of people think that, and I also think it takes a little bit of the hype away when you know they're already trying to get you to pay more for things. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think that they should have left maybe until like the week after, or maybe maybe on release day. Like, they could have said, expansion pass. It may have been a little bit easier to swallow for some people. Maybe. The main reason, and again, I'm talking about this now, is the negative reaction. So many people and so many gamers kind of shit on this. And in a huge way. I think DLC has this stigma in the gaming community that it's just this way for big developers and publishers to get more money from their player base. And it is, but if you're gaining something as a gamer from it, then there shouldn't be much of an issue in my eyes. I think this is great that we're getting more DLC throughout the year, because that means more reason to go back to Breath of the Wild and make more videos about Breath of the Wild and, keep experiencing and exploring this world. And that sounds amazing to me. I am not everyone else, seemingly. Or most people I've seen just went crazy about this. Everything from, I think because of this stigma of DLC, we've seen some companies release day one DLC for a lot of money. We've seen some companies take content out of games and release it later, and it's been quite obvious that that's what's happened. And we've seen some companies take things out that you think would be DLC and just never give us them either. But Nintendo came out and kind of, the stuff they've said here doesn't seem to be stuff that they would ever release, in the main game. It's stuff that you're getting added as a bonus, which is what DLC is. Luckily enough, because there's been so much time that's passed since this announcement, and we're going to keep talking about this for quite a while. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'll try to cut it down. Bill Trinan from Nintendo of America stepped in and talked about a couple of things. Is it Nintendo of America, or is he just Nintendo? Yeah, he's the senior product marketing manager at Nintendo of America. Knew it was NOA. Knew it. Okay, so anyway, he said the following quote. This is a long quote, so let me get into it. It actually brings up a point towards the end that I wanted to talk about anyway, so it's a nice kind of through point. So here we go. This is all Bill's words.
It was tough because we actually we had a lot of debate in terms of, do we announce it? How do we announce it? I think one of the things that's unique about the way Nintendo develops games is when we're working on a game, and certainly just knowing the history of Nintendo games, you guys know that it's essentially, we use every last minute to make the game as good as we possibly can.
Right.
And really what that means is that, the dev team was working on the main game, finished the main game, and then as they're starting to get to the very end and wrap it up, really they said, we've made this massive world of Hyrule. We've spent a long time building it. It would be a waste to just make one game and have that be it. We want people to be able to enjoy exploring this world. And so then they started thinking about, well, if we were going to do DLC, what would we do? How would we do it? And you can see that in the fact that the DLC is not launching the day after the game or a week after. It's coming out several months later in the form of the first pack, and then several months after that in the form of the second pack. And that's because the content's in development, And so I think from my perspective, obviously if we were able to share more detail, that would have been easier. But I think if you look to the example of something like a Mario Kart type of a DLC approach, really what the goal is, let's give people the option to purchase it when they're there at the store buying the game, and give them something to look forward to, and kind of, let them know that there's more to come in this world. And if you're a Zelda fan who's buying Nintendo Switch at launch, and really you're buying it for Zelda, I mean, how happy are you to know that, hey, I'm going to be able to play more Zelda in this world later this year?
One of my favorite
That's
things.
the point I wanted to talk about, is the Mario Kart 8 DLC kind of functions and how that didn't seem to get very negative reactions. It was presented quite similarly with these two kind of boxes and seeing what came in the DLC packs, but you could buy them separately from the day they were announced. You could buy them together in kind of a expansion pass similar to this on day one as well. I don't think they were announced day one for the game, though. I think they were announced quite a while after. Let me check. So I just checked, and it seemed that it was actually a few months after Mario Kart 8 came out that the DLC was officially announced. It was, let's see, it looks like it was about 3 months later in August, and I think the game came out in the end of May. This is 2014 we're talking about, which is, I think, a nice amount of time. So you've had a few months to play the game. You're really enjoying Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 is an amazing game. And then they're like, oh yeah, here's some DLC. And some of those DLC maps, by the way, the tracks are fantastic. They're some of my favorite Mario Kart tracks ever. They're really, really good. So I'm really glad they did that, and I hope that the negative reaction to DLC with Breath of the Wild doesn't stop them from doing similar things for future Mario Kart and future Nintendo games, because I love the idea of DLC for Nintendo games. Someday, like, when Skyward Sword came out, it's now taken us however many years, a billion years it's felt like, for Breath of the Wild to come out. I would have loved, like, supplemental DLC within that time, which is what we're going to get for Breath of the Wild. Like, being able to go back into this world and explore and do new things and experience almost like new Zelda stories before the next Zelda game comes out is amazing to me. And I love that idea. But clearly, I think everyone likes that idea. I just don't think a lot of people like the idea of DLC. I think the big companies like EA and Activision have kind of soured the whole idea of DLC. Maybe that's the thing. Another great game that did DLC very well is Witcher 3. Now, I think Witcher 3 had Season Pass options to let you get all the DLC from day one. I will check that as well. I couldn't find a firm answer, but I'm pretty sure when I bought The Witcher 3 originally, I got a version that had the Season Pass included with it. So, that wasn't a thing that seemingly annoyed people too much with The Witcher 3 that I remember anyway. But, the stuff you got in The Witcher 3 was huge anyway, so. Anyway, back to Breath of the Wild DLC. Clearly, this annoyed some people, and clearly it didn't annoy some people. I mean, there's definitely some people on there. I talked to some people on Twitter, and they're just as excited for me as, as anyone. But this is kind of the nature of the gaming industry and the gaming community, is some people just really dislike DLC. They could be the biggest Zelda fans. They could, think Breath of the Wild is the best game ever and still hate the DLC so much. Now, I think what might soften this a little bit is if Nintendo down the line announce that the DLC can be bought separately. I think that some people are a little bit annoyed that they're going to have to pay $20 or however much it is in your area. Pay $20 and all you get is a few items on day one, and then you have to wait all the way through summer for some lackluster DLC, all the way to Christmas and the holiday season to get this big expansion. I think a lot of people would prefer just to buy that big expansion at the end of the year and not have to pay so much to get all the other stuff as well. That's just my thought anyway. Maybe that would soften kind of the anger a little bit there. I'm really excited. I'm probably going to pick this up before we even jump into our, starting our Let's Play of the game. I'll probably go into the eShop, set everything up, buy it, get everything ready. I'll not be wearing the Switch t-shirt, though, in-game. That's a little bit too immersion breaking for me. I might just put it into a fire in a bokoblin camp and just let it roast and burn. I don't think you can do that. That would be cool, though. Anyway, that's how I've started this week. A little bit of a somber, video today. A little bit more discussion. This isn't scripted. All of last week's videos were scripted. All of the theory stuff. There'll be one scripted video this week, I think. Everything else is going to be much more like this, which is me just rambling on and talking, which I think a lot of people weirdly like, because it's a lot more like my Let's Play series, so it's a lot more hearing me ramble on, which makes the videos way longer than the scripted ones. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. We're almost there at the end of this week. It's going to be crazy. On Friday, I'm going to do an unboxing of the Switch, followed by 2 episodes of Breath of the Wild, and then you're going to get 2 episodes of Breath of the Wild for the foreseeable future every day. I haven't figured out the timings of those yet, because on day 1, they're going to go up. Well, the first episode's going to go up as soon as I've finished editing it. It's just going to go public. And then The second one will probably go out at 6 p.m., my usual release time for videos. And again, this is hoping that everything goes well on Friday and I get the Switch and Breath of the Wild and everything on time. So, with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I've got some pretty exciting videos to come this week. There's a really interesting one that I'm just finishing up as well called Top 10 Predictions, where I talk about the top 10 things I think are going to happen in Breath of the Wild, which is really, really cool. Also, I should have put this at the start of the video, but avoid everything you can, because the press has got the game now. Some people are starting to leak things, and I've completely shut off certain websites now, so I'm not reading certain things, because I don't want to be spoiled, basically. So that's fun. So yeah, thank you all for watching so much, and I will see you all tomorrow for another little video. See you guys then.